big tiebreaker as well. And we are going to see this early warrior, and it does look, with all those odd casting cost cards, like it could be an odd warrior.
It does look like it's probably an odd warrior here from Don.
And
nothing unusual that we can see so far. No quest shenanigans.
So Derek gave me the eyebrow earlier when I was saying that the Paladin can win this matchup. But the way you do it is that actually the warrior doesn't have huge amounts of spot removal, single minion removal, so you can sort of tower your minions up, maybe get yourself a Valanir in the process as well, and just hit them really hard, really fast with just like 2 minions. Don't give them a good Super Collider, don't give them a good Brawl, don't give them a good Reckless Flurry, and stack things sky high. And yeah, Faeli's going with kind of that route. Okay, he kept towering, which implies he's going to go wide at some point. But he's going for the big stuff, not the messing around stuff.
2-drops are not going to be incredibly impactful in this game. In fact, like you were just saying, they can be more of a liability at times, setting up for Brawl or Mind Control tech to be more impactful than they normally would be if Faeli were to just stack with Corpse Taker or Glass Knight and all of the buffs that he does have in his deck. The Paladin can go very tall, and Don is only playing 2 copies of Shield Slam and the 2 Owls, so it's a fair amount of single target removal and debuff, but it is limited to an extent, and the Warrior doesn't draw cards that quickly.
Yeah, and that's why Faeli can go with this slower looking approach. In more ways than one.
Talking pace of play.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just instantly press the hero power button and pass, because then they know you've got no 2-drops in your hand.
Got to give it a good think. Faeli is a rather meticulous player at times. I think the only really fast players we had in this tournament were maybe Casey and Gallon.
Yeah. Yeah, Faeli's pretty slow, Boston's pretty slow, Hunter Ace is the slowest. Oh no, sorry, he's on Yarla's team. Yarla's the slowest. We've got a lot of very strong players, but they're strong players because they're using their time all efficiently. They're not just sitting there staring at a wall. They're sitting there working out what they're going to do, getting things clear.
Time is a resource available to these players, and as much as roping in the early turns seems silly a lot of the time, they're not doing it just because they think it's fun. Let's just put it that way.
Most of them.
Most of them. I'm sure 1 or 2 of them maybe get some sort of joy out of it. The easy play here just looks like a Tar Creeper for Don, but if he wants to maximize armor gain, he can just choose to push the button again.
True Silver is a pretty good card to have right now. Just going to check if he wants the coin for this turn, if he wants to save it until turn 5. It would really be hard to have the self-control to wait until turn 5, I think, here. Your Tarim is not going to be that great, and also your Valanir is not that great if you haven't used up the True Silver Charger, but he's going to go with the Glass Knight and save those charges.
Fair enough, the Glass Knight can benefit from those True Silver charges. We don't get to see it happen too much, but if Faeli does heal from the True Silver, Glass Knight then gains its Divine Shield back. Nice little added bonus and incentive just to want to play the card. 4 mana 4/3 with Divine Shield is pretty good anyway.
Yeah, and it's when Derek was casting earlier, he's saying, I forget it has an ability, it's just a Divine Shield 4/3, but that ability comes into play
once in a while.
Once in a while, and that is just enough to make it good enough. There's a lot of debate when it was printed of like, why is this card actually that good? And I think that argument still goes on to this day, but it gets it often enough to make it better than just a 4/3 Divine Shield, dude.
Don's certainly taking his time.
I don't mind this at all.
The Ironbeak Owl was an option just to try and prevent the Glass Knight from getting any Divine Shield value. But when there's Spike Ridge Steeds and Blessing of Kings in the deck as well, and a Valanir, of course, that you want to shut down at some point, Owl is going to be a lot more valuable than just 1 damage, essentially.
Yeah, Faeli's going to have to do a lot of damage this game, not just the armor you can see already, but
it's going to keep stacking. Something
huge is going to have to stick, probably a Corpse Taker.
Super Collider as well is a tool that we haven't touched on just yet, but if Faeli does go very tall with 1 or 2 minions, 2 in particular, then it gives Don that added ability to Super Collider those minions down, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
These 1/1s are good for sticking in the middle of those things.
That
Separate your guys out, stick one in the middle.
So that 3 minion board is going to be the sweet spot for Faeli. Play around Mind Control Tech, but also play around Super Collider.
There's a lot of play arounds going on there.
And then you have Brawl and Reckless Flurry and Owl and Shield Slam, and this Warrior deck has a lot of removal in it, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, and as long as Don assigns that removal accordingly, if this Owl never does anything until Valanier is played, he should be good. Faeli's keeping it under control for now, but it's turn 4. You're allowed to keep it under control for 4 turns.
The healing does happen before the True Silver attacks the target, so no Divine Shield for the Glass Knight right now.
I saw a play earlier, or it was Mitsu, so he's almost certainly not made that mistake. But there's a weird moment where there's this sort of pause. I'm thinking, did he forget that's how it worked just for a second?
Maybe...
The Super Collider hitting into the Glass Knight plus the Eternium trade over the Glass Knight would clear the board here. But this also clears the board and still keeps some pressure for Don. It's just a matter there of how much does he value that Shield Slam. And in his mind, using it to clear up the Glass Knight is good enough.
And the way he's got the board could force Faeli to go wider than he would like, and then you've got your Reckless Flurry to get some value. But Don is out of cards. So he's not out of cards as far as Faeli's concerned. These could all be terrifying cards, but Faeli has got a decent advantage in value right now, but value is not where you want to be for now.
There's not a whole lot of pressure in the Warrior deck, but a couple Direhorn Hatchlings, at least the Trailblazer, another Stonehill Defender. And then, of course, at the top end, you have Dr. Boom Mad Genius and Omega Assembly after you get past 10 mana. None of those resources available for Don just yet. But soon. His deck's pretty stacked at this point.
Yeah, Faeli has big enough stuff, and again, he went for this strategy from his mulligan. He hasn't really had time for that to shine yet. He kept a very heavy hand. And we're going to have to wait and see how much he gets out of that when we get into these turn 6 and onwards. From the I don't need to play little guys strategy.
So Pyro could have been played with Consecration next turn to clear up the Sar Knights, but Faeli would rather be a little bit more proactive here. And this is going to be a clean Super Collider clear.
It is, but it's not a devastating one. You don't want it, but also now you know the Super Collider's there. You've tested for it, because you know he's going to play it if he's got it.
There is an Acidic Swamp Ooze in the deck for Faeli, I'm almost certain. So a lot of the time, as the Warrior, you really need that first Super Collider charge to count, unless you have that second one ready to go. But I think that was a good use of it.
Valanier, no messing around for Faeli. Trying to get uses out of it before the Owl is drawn. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we can see the Owl in hand for Don already, but nothing that he wants to play this turn. Dynamatic is just a 3/4 if he drops it.
And we did get a lesson a minute ago from Yukaso in, if you don't kill the Paladin can still kill you.
They can.
And we saw how long it was able. It basically fatigued Boston to death. That's not going to happen here, obviously, but it did show you how long you have to maintain the control for as the control deck. You can't let your foot off the pedal or it will just come back and do it again.
Well, later on in the game, the Paladin can often just play one minion and hero power. And the hero powers eventually will stack up to be threats on their own in this matchup if the Warrior runs out of stuff. And that's traditionally been the way that Paladin has operated against Warrior. The Paladin hero power eventually will stack up to be more damage that the Warrior can armor. But things have changed over time. The Warrior is a lot more threatening now than it was back then.
For sure. And you may have heard me grunting in the background while you said that. It's like, does he use the Owl? Doesn't he? How does Faeli respond? He probably responds by playing 2 Blessing of Kings. Oh, another Owl has been drawn and taken a lot of that intrigue out of the next couple of turns.
Don will still take 8 damage from the Double Kings if Faeli plays it next turn. And I would assume Faeli would put 1 on the Gen, put 1 on the Recruit, try to spread out the power a little bit. So second Owl isn't automatically just going to be a shutdown next turn.
I think.
But it's pretty good to have. It's good to have.
Oh, and he plays the one he drew as well. Always like it when they play the one they draw.
Don did have the ability to clear that turn if he chose to. Could have gone Owl Dynamatic, and then it would have likely resulted in him having to hit the Gen Greymane with the Super Collider. But it would have played around, Spike Ridge Steed on this turn onto one of the existing minions.
He could have hit the Owl as well. I think he was trying to find a way to manipulate that so it didn't happen.
Yeah. There was no guarantee.
But it was making it just a little bit awkward.
Like to play with fire?
Yep. Separating Super Collider things. And Faeli is going to be upset here. Actually, he doesn't need to be upset. Don can actually just use the play you were just talking about, the Dynamatic. I can't because it's 3-1, because Faeli's made it a 3-1. The Pyromancer. Just ignore what I just said. I was thinking you could Super Collider 3-1, but that's not how that works.
No, he would have to Super Collider again into the Wild Pyromancer and then play the Dynamatic.
That's making things awkward.
Well, he saved himself from having to take the 10 damage last turn from hitting the Super Collider in and clearing with the Dynamatic then. So he might as well do it now. He picked up the Direhorn Hatchling for some follow-up. He has the Baku as well, which is never what he's going to want to play, but at some point, maybe it's just good enough. Drop a 7-8 on the board because he can.
He's going to take the 10. But Faeli won't mind that too much.
Damage is not something that Don really has to worry about, at least now.
Sure.
He's going to be able to stack so much armor. He's still got 2 shield blocks in the deck. He has Dr. Boom Mad Genius, the natural hero power for as long as he can have it. Taking 10 right now is fine. He's not a druid, but I mean, you play Odd Warrior for a reason.
It's right now his shopping list.
I wonder.
Bag of sugar. Lemon tea. I thought he was making notes in the game.
It's not a shopping list. It's a ghost. Sorry, that might be a little bit after your time.
Thanks. I do wonder what Don noted there, because it sort of was in the middle of a turn. What if he just suddenly had an idea and he's just written down, like, do not accidentally concede or something?
Do not press the escape button and try to adjust your game sound.
Yeah, so it felt like that was a reminder rather than a note.
Call mom later.
Might be
Ask her how she's doing.
It might be there is a Lich King card. Yeah, call mom. Let her know I'm in the top 16.
So many choices.
Feeling pretty good about this, huh? Maybe he is. Don can clear with Reckless Flurry this turn. Is the guaranteed way. He's got to get rid of all of his armor, unfortunately, to do that.
But it's a good time to do it before he does start to potentially stabilize and get even more than 4 armor. Because that's always the paradox with the Flurry. Like, you don't want to lose too much armor. Yeah. And now, doing a good job of keeping control of the board without going crazy. Oh, Faeli, you're so strange.
Running Bloodsail Raiders in the deck.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of... No, he's got Amani, I believe. Maybe he doesn't. That was Ikazo had Amani.
Let me...
Yeah,
Potentially Bloodsails in that spot.
I think we've seen this before. Like, the Amani, Bloodsail, whichever 2-drop has 2/3 on it and might one day have something else on it. And it seems to be very much personal preference.
Not a straightforward turn for Faeli.
I don't think he quite knows where he stands here. Like, Don's certainly not completely winning this game.
No. His hand is still not great.
But
not a lot of
we
pressure.
can see that, and Faeli, who is a decent hand reader, probably hasn't got much of a clue what's going on, because the right-hand Owl was played. He probably hasn't got one of those cards down as being Owl.
so hard to get a good grasp on what the leftmost 2 cards in the hand are.
Yeah, and of course,
Don
no
could be holding on to Dr. Boom for all Faeli knows.
Yeah. There's no hurry to get that value. Dr. Boom would be great on about turn 15. Boston would have loved a Dr. Boom in that Druid deck. Just that extra little bit of value.
Well, stack as high as you can and get the Tarim down, because Tarim is not going to really be used defensively in this matchup. It's going to be more of an aggressive tool.
Yeah, there's usually no time like the present with this. It only gets worse for you the more cards the warrior draws, so...
Especially since Faeli just saw Reckless Flurry last turn.
Yes. But another Reckless Flurry here. It's pretty monstrous.
Very clean. Don, though, doesn't have anything to develop after it onto the board like he did last turn with the Hatchling. So he's just going to have to... Dominance play. 2-1. He's just going to have to cede initiative back over to Faeli.
This means he's going to play, Baku and just... Okay.
I like this.
You keep playing bigger minions, but I keep playing bigger minions.
Super Collider's been around long enough that if Faeli has removal for it, he's going to find it eventually. Don might as well just get the full value out of that Super Collider. And it is pretty necessary that he put something onto the board this turn, which Reckless Flurry wouldn't have allowed him to do.
How do we like Equality, Consecration, Blessing a King's Bosch?
I like it a lot, actually. Don's only at 18. He could be at 11. Well, 9, actually, with the Consecration damage.
With Death and Decay and Spiteful in hand, and just hope they haven't got anything else.
Don's played a Shield Slam already.
You don't think he's got an Owl, most likely, because, again, he played the right-hand one, and it looked a bit like a top deck, because he played it pretty quick.
Let me think.
I think that's probably the way to go.
That button?
Don would actually gain 2 armor off of the Eternium Rover from the Consecration, so he would be at 11 still.
Yeah, I mean, Faeli's going to need to do more than just this, but...
Okay, use the Death and Decay now. Does the same thing as the Consecration, and honestly, use them in whatever order you want.
Yep.
At this point, it's just for the damage. So Don here, the Owl can silence the Bloodsail back to a 2-3, and he picks up the Direhorn Hatchling. So that makes this turn a lot easier than it would have been.
Yeah, things were looking tough there. Now they're not so tough anymore. But again, we must point out, Don has got that Reckless Flurry, but the second that Reckless Flurry is used up, you know, Faeli is going to go on the sort of make 1/1s every turn train, and that could get difficult for Don. I don't think Faeli's run out of going tall yet. He's still got some more tallness to come. Here's another board. Chips away another 3 damage.
Gets to leave a threat active. And again, Don's not got the easiest road here. Even Tank Up plus Flurry doesn't clear this now, but Omega Assembly...
Oh my.
That's 3 threats in 1. Potentially, it could also be 3 pretty bad cards. Scorpomatic kills off the Recruit. Damage Stegatron is a 5/6.
And Harvest Golem is just a thing that's going to sit there and not do much. Just harvest a few fields and ignore the board.
Maybe...
Not what you need.
No.
That could have been so much nicer for Don. Another reason to get some of this stuff on the board is to try and help your own brawl to some extent. Because Faeli has established... It's not exactly a huge board, but it's terrifying enough when you're on 11.
And he's gotten rid of both of the Owls, one of the Shield Slams, and I think made a pretty good read that there isn't a second Shield Slam available.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been utilised, I think. That is a Spellbreaker, Cora. Things are about to get exciting.
We've speculated about Spellbreaker and Even Paladin quite a bit, but I haven't seen anybody playing it until Faeli.
Yeah, same. I'm sure it is played a reasonable amount. You're trying to force damage through. Especially for this tournament. Like on ladder, when you've got to face against zoos and odd rogues and stuff. Maybe not so much, but again, we haven't seen those decks, and they're not the decks you're really targeting anyway.
How long?
You're fine against them, which is why it's such a good bring. But... Oh, asking the question, do you have Brawl?
Does Don have the answer to the question? He has a brawl in hand.
And is it enough? I mean, depending on what lives, bad things could still happen here.
Well, unless the Bloodsail Raider lives, the Shield Slam will allow Don to clear up the entire board. Maybe minus the Stegodon that comes out.
Yeah, it's the Stegodon, is it? But then Faeli's down to a 1-drop plus his top deck every turn, which still isn't that bad. Because Don is low enough that an Avenging Wrath, for instance, just could be really good.
Okay, just clean up the Bloodsail Raider and then brawl.
Yep.
And again, as long as it's not the Stegodon that survives, Shield Slam clears.
Yeah. It's basically the same thing. Faeli really would like to win this, oddly enough.
He sort of does. This is probably just good enough for a hero power in the Harvest Golem if Don wants to, but what buffs have we seen played already?
We've seen
Double Kings and Double Steed, I believe, or just a single Steed?
Might be both.
Maybe
that was what he was taking notes on in his shopping list.
Probably was.
3 buffs.
Can it be?
Need a new pair of shoes.
That's probably one of the worst cards in the deck, but again, Faeli did mulligan for all the big stuff, so you're allowed to draw the small stuff when you don't want it later.
Yeah, he's got to find it eventually. He's gotten Don down to a very, very low life total, but he needs to push at least 4 every single turn, or Don's just going to out-armor this pressure. The Ziliax pickup is big.
Yeah.
It's going to gain Don 6 life, it looks like.
And he's getting out of cheeky Avenging Wrath range now as well, so more cards, Dr. Boom to come somewhere, no card draw stuff for Faeli. And still managing to cling onto that Reckless Flurry and a Shield Slam for emergencies. He's looking reasonable. But I'm not committing ever again to anything. Told you that.
He's going to choose to magnetize it, actually, instead of spreading apart those attacks. Could have cleared up the recruit by not choosing to magnetize the Ziliax, but this will just gain him so much more life.
Yeah, so much more quickly, yeah, especially.
He's not going to be afraid of this recruit, especially since Double Kings is gone and Tarim is gone.
There is the Avenging Wrath, and yeah, Faeli sarcastically thanking an unknown source.
Well, there's a chance that the Golem dies.
It's a good chance.
But from this point, Faeli would have to draw Lich King almost exactly to be able to get the job done. Tyrion if he's got it, but something tells me he doesn't. And the Avenging Wrath only hits 4 onto the Harvest Golem.
36% chance, I think that was.
Okay. So Don ends up gaining an additional 5 life. And there's Dr. Boom.
And he's got enough health now due to the way he used the Ziliax to not even have to think twice about this.
The Micro Squad as well. Going to be able to clear up the recruit and put 2 more power onto the board. Don looking comfortable now.
Yeah.
Ooze is quite a bit late for Faeli. Needed something impactful there.
Yeah, he's just drawn all the cards that he wanted on various different turns.
reporting for duty.
Keeping the use for the second Super Collider. I mean, no reason to play it there. It just gets killed by the damaged golem. But now Don's drawing very, very well. He's picking up cards that give him additional resources every turn since the Omega Assembly.
Faeli saw the Yukaso going while he was waiting. He's like, I can win this.
3-0, we got it. Direhorn Hatchling is usually the pick off of Stonehill when you are the warrior. But Omega Defender just has 12 attack.
Yeah,
Don wants to end this game.
Turns. Gonna get it to 1 game apiece. Faeli has a bit of a think, gives it up, oddly enough. And the Paladin is down. It's down to what we believe is Odd Paladin and Odd Warrior for Don. And Hunter and even Lock for Faeli.
Okay, both of those have reasonable matchups against the Warrior, the Hunter much more so. And I would think that if Faeli wants to bring out the Hunter here, he takes the win. That's slightly Hunter favored. But the Warrior has so much more game in this matchup than people get it credit for, to the point where Admirable said, with conviction, warrior is favored.
I think that if you take the 2 best players in the world, I'll have to ask them. I think that the warrior is favoured, but I do believe that it drops off very quickly towards Hunter being slightly favoured.
Deathstalker Rexar changes the matchup so significantly, and then a lot of the results do come down to how good are your built beasts, how early do you have Katharina, how much value can you get out of the cube.
But one thing that is for sure is if you have Rexar early in the game, the Hunter is favoured.
Yes, the win rate goes way up at that point.
And that's what causes the arguments, because you don't always get it early in the game, and human beings are not good at assessing, well, what happens when you don't do it compared to what you do and then multiplying through. So,
and it's also a matchup that you don't want to aggressively draw with tracking, because the warrior is going to win in fatigue pretty much every time.
Yeah, you won't see this tracking played at all now. You also don't want to burn your beasts for Katharina later, because that's actually a big deal. Getting some at 9s into the face. But the early Rexar does mean a good thing. But I even now I hear the warrior players say sometimes, I don't care about an early Rexar. Yeah, it makes my life really hard.
But the early boom is really good too.
Still mill them, I'm fine.
The answer to the Rexar is Dr. Boom Mad Genius online early, and then all of the mechs having rush.
Yeah.
And then, yes, you do need to finagle your way into a delivery drone more than 1 out of 5 times. Your eyes just, like, lit up.
I don't understand
going through your brain.
Words that you just said.
Oh, finagle?
Yeah.
Oh, manipulate?
And that one.
Get lucky?
And that one. I don't understand words.
Okay.
Anyway, Faeli is just going to be passing time now, making eggs and doing Hunter things and whistling innocently in the corner, pretending he hasn't got Rexar.
Don't mind me. No Rexar's here. Go ahead, play your owl now. We're good. It's okay.
Yeah, wait till you've got your 9/9 Hydra of hitting everything.
Hydra with lifesteal.
Not a lot available here for Don. He is going to actually silence the egg.
Okay. I was saying that a bit tongue-in-cheek because the owl is so important for the cubes later on. To be able to owl a cube and then brawl away a board that's been play-deaded or terror-scale stalkered.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that play myself.
I just don't know if it's necessary.
And we know there's a Rexar, of course, so, you know, if there's no Rexar, you slow it down. But what other cards did Faeli keep? So, anyway, Don has chosen to silence the egg.
I do think it was unnecessary, especially since... So if Faeli had... The worst-case scenario for Don here would be terror-scale stalker play-dead.
Yep.
And then one of those Devil Swords has to go over the Tar Creeper, and then the Zilliax comes out to clear up the Devil Sword, and then Dinomatic, in theory, could clear up the other one, could also clear up the egg. A little touch and go there. But still, it's not the end of the world, and Don does have the Brawl, and then also he gets to keep the Owl.
Yeah, the worst case is you use the Owl later.
And how often is the worst-case scenario the actual scenario?
Not very often at all. Although, ask Don after this game what he thinks about this Rexar.
Well, this is... He's not going to be happy about this. That's for damn sure.
Yes. A lot not to like about that turn. But this is a hard matchup to play well. This is why the arguments persist over... I mean, when the community can't decide who is favoured, and people will be going to stat sites and saying, oh, the Hunter's over 60%. Obviously, the Hunter's the easier side of the match to play. That is why.
Yeah, I mean, HS Replay and Vicious Syndicate will tell you...
Huge numbers.
One is favored, but then you need to factor in, well, is this at all ranks or is this just at legend?
Yeah.
And then is this just at high legend?
Is this at Hunter Ace?
Yeah. Very different spectrums. The coin Rexar here, probably going to see it from Faeli. This is the prime card that you want in the matchup. No reason to hold it for any longer, especially without a Katharina in hand that he would want to coin to on turn 7.
Yeah, and now the game just begins. And as casters, keeping an eye on every single beast when it's clicked really quick can become an issue, so we have to try and... Whatever word that was used earlier, our way into this.
To hard mode. But that's okay. We haven't built many beasts today, I'm ready.
We actually haven't seen many Rexars really make a difference.
A lot of Hunters been getting banned today, I think, too.
And the others have been doing it the old-fashioned way a lot of the time with the eggs.
No.
It's kind of the meta we're in, where everything's sort of mid-rangey, slightly slow, so you haven't quite got the time to build a lot of beasts. We have seen some. And Don, I'm not sure he's settled on how he's thinking he's going to try and win this yet. A couple of turns he's been sort of not sure which way to go. With the owl now, it's like, I don't know which minion I want.
At this point, it is all about outlasting.
Yeah. So if you pick the chunkiest thing that doesn't let you get hit in the face.
Gem-sided Golem is fine. Don isn't looking to use it aggressively, so the ability to attack is kind of irrelevant here. He just needs to slow this game down and remove everything that Faeli plays. Now, the reason why people often think that this matchup is so incredibly favored towards the Hunter is because of situations like this. When Deathstalker Rexar comes down on turn 5 and beasts are being built every turn thereafter, there's so much stuff for the warrior have to get through.
And the Hunter is favored when this happens. Like, then they forget that the rest of the time it doesn't always happen like this. You don't always have the Rexar on turn 5 or 12 or 26.
Sometimes it's the last card in your deck.
Exactly.
That's a game that the warrior wins.
Oh yes.
But from now on,
Rhino,
it's looking like Faeli's playground. He can build beasts, save those cubes and play deads for really good value.
Was looking for stealth there because against the warrior, if you just stick that Rhino down with stealth and just leave it there forever, eventually they have to either flurry it or brawl it, and that's your first one. You've got another 18 beasts or something before you're out of cards.
Yeah, the warrior is forced into some really horrible situations, like a 50-50 brawl or a flurry for a large chunk of their health. But still, just getting the Rhino even without stealth is fine. There's a chance that Faeli's able to stick it on its own because he did get the additional 3 health from the Dire Maul.
And it is just damage from hand anyway, and you need that damage.
If it does stick, then of course any beasts you play after are going to have charge. But I don't think it's quite the cube fodder that Faeli wants just yet. Ideally, that would be something with stealth.
We might not see these cubes for a very long time.
I have seen, though, a couple of instances of where the Hunter does lose from this point, and it's because they never get the value out of their cubes.
Yeah.
So the cubes are going to be a really key piece of the puzzle here still, even though there's additional beasts being built every turn.
In the games that I've seen that go really well for the Hunter, 3 minions exactly for the entire game.
That's the sweet spot. Play around the Super Collider, but also don't go too deep into the brawl.
And the cubes don't help that, but eventually you have to play, like you say, you need to get the value from them sometime.
And if you cube play dead, and they're forced to brawl it, we've seen 1 owl come out, for instance, so there's only 1 additional silence in the deck, then the cube is very likely going to leave something behind on the board.
Faeli not getting fantastic options right now either, but again, this is where the fact you have so many turns comes in.
Eventually he's going to find Vicious Fledgling plus Dire Maul, or plus Stone Tusk Boar, or Tundra Rhino plus Jungle Panther, something like that. The really, really good combinations. He's never going to be looking for those removal beasts like Bloat Bat plus Poisonous. He just doesn't really going to need them in this matchup. Unless, of course, we see mechs that are untargetable later on, like Beryllium Nullifier being magnetized onto something. That is a situation we run into occasionally.
Yeah,
in this
those
matchup.
things are pretty tasty. Especially if you actually get Dr. Boom down and start getting delivery drones, you get far more chance of getting them. Along with the assemblies, of course, that you mentioned. Don's, again, still trying to find a plan. He's a lot happier now, I think, than he was a few turns ago.
So many choices.
People we don't see often are just getting better and better at just taking it really calm first time on stream.
I'm impressed. It's very easy to get carried away. And even so, I would expect them not necessarily just to be more nervous. Maybe they're very comfortable, but just to be more animated in general. As I tend to be a very animated player, so I guess I'm a little bit biased into my own,
I think streamers and casters tend to be a lot more animated when they play Hearthstone. They just get into the habit of being animated, and then they sit there and just tell everyone what their hand is. Hey, I've just drawn one of these. Look at me go. Oh, opponent can hear.
It's always in the back of my head when I'm wondering, are these guys really super calm up there, or are they just so stressed that they just can't completely show emotion, you know? It doesn't look like that's the case with Don, though. Seems pretty calm.
Yeah. And it usually comes down to which ones are aware that they're a little bit under pressure. They're the ones who tend to get it under control. Sometimes you see people just lose it, which is always fun. Because I'm mean.
flapjacking coming out for Faeli. So he's resigned to the fact that he's not going to win this game in fatigue, but when you find Rexar so early, that's fine.
Yeah.
This game's not likely going to go to fatigue.
It still will get fairly close, though. I do agree with you, but it will still get close. And actually, this is really awkward.
I suppose if Faeli keeps building beasts that are...
rubbish.
Yeah, not very good. Then there's a chance if these cubes don't get much value. But I don't think Don's going to want to owl this Tundra Rhino.
So many.
Yeah, this is the big downside now, coming back from that cube on the egg all the way back at the start. This is his last owl now.
Got to make this one count. And a 50-50 brawl looks a little bit too risky to me. So I kind of agree with what he's thinking, which is just gem-studded golem and a hero power.
Maybe.
How was charge ever a thing? Every time I see it, it's like rush plus.
Yeah, they have since a lot of the charge changes, like since Arcane Golem was changed, essentially gone obviously more towards the rush plan of attack. And rush seems powerful, but fair.
Yeah,
and the very few charge minions that we do have nowadays are just like bananas. The Swamp King Dread taking that 6th minion spot for Faeli, usually reserved for Savannah Highmate or Charged Devilsaur. But in his situation, he wanted something that operates a little bit differently. It's a 7-mana 9/9, can't attack immediately, doesn't have the death rattle of the Savannah Highmane, but it can be a bit of a disruptor against certain decks, like Shutterwalk Shaman, for instance, more famously against Mecha'thun.
Yeah, we've seen some incredible things there. Mecha'thun just can't stay on the board. Or at least the combo parts can't, before you wonder what I'm talking about.
But how about a 7-mana 9/9 with charge?
Seems decent.
That's cool.
I'd play that card.
It does mean that Super Collider's a little bit too good.
I think he also, you're definitely right there. He's also trying to work out, I think, could this be even more valuable later when those nullifiers come to town? Start stopping the magnetic and stuff abilities.
It looks like he might just...
Yeah?
say he can't play around the Super Collider here.
Whoa.
I mean, the Super Collider would require Don to take 9 damage to clear the board, but that's a pretty nice trade for Don. He's happy to do that.
This big game hunter is going to also be worked very hard in this game of Hearthstone. This is not an easy turn. You can deal with the whole board if you want to just use your last 2 remaining spot targeted cards. But that's no fun. You can Reckless Flurry and Dynamatic.
I think that's...
But you have
no.
Maybe
You'd have to seriously overkill that Rhino just to deal 1 damage.
Oh, that's
Alright, yeah, just shield block and then flurry.
not even a flurry, is there?
Or no, there's
I just look at the shield block. I've got glasses
I'm
now.
just
I still can't
trusting
see.
you, man. What are you doing?
Sorry, Cora.
Blind leading the blind. 3.
Of course it's a flurry.
Dang it, Lorinda.
Why would you want a shield block?
Now we look silly.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, that's not what I would have done.
This doesn't look like a good turn, but he ran out of time, had to do something.
Well, as long as one of the bombs hits the Swamp King Dread there, the Dynamatic will kill it because Swamp King Dread is forced to attack into the Dynamatic.
Oh.
But it was very closely, almost 5 bombs hitting the Tundra Rhino.
You know that cube you've been talking about for a while?
Yee.
It might be quite good now.
You want more rhinos?
Rhinos in a cube, so if they brawl, I've got rhinos out of a cube.
I like rhinos. They are 3/8. It's pretty good. As we've established, there's no Reckless Flurry in Don's hand. So they might be kind of difficult to get rid of. No.
He had one a minute ago.
Funny story. No Flurry. Just shield block. But that was played.
You're all bullies.
Do you need your glasses prescription updated? I just went to the eye doctor.
Eye doctor.
The optometrist. I would recommend
I think
it.
I'm fine.
It's good fun. They puff some air into your eye.
Perhaps I've got them on the wrong way round or something. That was a, grunt of that's the sort of thing you would do. I was way too agreeing.
Dr. Boom Mad Genius picked up for Don, but, he is in a rough spot now.
Yeah, this owl, again, this BGH, this owl, they're both under a lot of pressure to do a lot of work, and the second they're gone, Faeli will just run riot all over this. I mean, how do you like play dead on a 5/5 Divine Shield Flappy Bird that charges?
I think Don needs to do everything in his power to prevent that from happening. And if that means a 33% brawl here, he needs to do it. These brawls aren't going to be very good. Faeli's not going to let them be very good. But I would not just Dr. Boom this turn.
Put it down!
What is Dr. Boom doing for him? It's making the mechs better, but he doesn't have any mechs. Yeah, gains 7 armor. I still think you need to silence that Rhino this turn now. Which he then could have done 4 turns ago. No. This is... For Don, it's probably a tactical disrespect of the Rhino and the Fledgling, but you don't ever disrespect that bird. It'll mess you up.
Faeli can do 36 damage this turn. If he gets Wind Fury, then +3 attack on all 3 birds.
Oh, okay. That's not very likely. That is a Hydra, however, that has built-in charge.
My goodness.
And 11 attack. Oh, dear.
That is a beast. I don't even think the crazy Flappy Bird play is correct. It's just terrifying looking.
The damage threshold is just incredibly high right now.
There's double play dead.
There is.
I think you might just go for this then. That's a lot of 5/5 Wind Fury nonsenses.
4/4, I believe. Because it was buffed +1/+1 last turn, I want to say. No, okay. Maybe? No.
Or you can hit it with 11.
I'm not positive what it's built with, honestly.
Yeah. It does get difficult. But it'll hit them with 11s is also fun. 11/10s, sorry.
And it does play around the Rhino dying to Super Collider without Don having to take a lot of damage here. Don gave up his hero power, so he doesn't have a way to gain armor consistently. This is the first time Faeli's actually put 3 minions onto the board.
Yeah, he's been trying to all game and finally gets there. And if you want to brawl this, I think the answer is good luck to you, because what do you want to win?
For a master plan.
Answer is the card that you played.
Well, does Don need to get a 25% brawl then?
I mean, he can just use the BGH to get rid of the 11/10. That's the prime suspect right now.
I don't think that's good enough. He's left this Rhino up for far too long.
Yeah. Yeah, he really has.
My mind's just trying to wade through how bad of a position is Don really in. I think it's very bad. Is the only way that he wins this to either win a 25% brawl or have the Hydra be the only thing left remaining, and then Big Game Hunter that. He's going to go for the 25% brawl. He does not win. The Rhino ends up surviving. It's the least amount of damage represented on the board currently, but the amount of potential from any beast that could come charging at Don's face right now, that's the real issue. And now there's a Terror Scale Stalker, so Cube, Terror Scale, double play dead. Faeli is limited by board space, but there's so much damage that he has in hand.
Those fledglings looked really good last turn. Because you've got more back from after the brawl as well. But maybe he's playing around double brawl in that situation, actually.
That's reasonable enough. Faeli's under no pressure right now.
Yeah.
He can take this as fast or as slow as he wants. And of course you want to, set up to win the game as quickly as you can. But if there's any risk involved, I think he's fine to minimize that risk.
I think you're right.
He's just going to cube the Tundra Rhino now that it's down to 4 health. It's a little bit unsafe. Wants to ensure that he keeps that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Katharina was like an interesting looking play there as well, because just get that King Crush before you draw it. But again, it thins your deck. He wants maximum number of turns and beasts to win this thing.
Okay, so having just seen Brawl number 1, Faeli is going in.
And that probably explains why he didn't risk it before, because the double brawl that we're talking about.
Now a single brawl would, in theory, leave at least 2 rhinos on the board after the cube dies.
Don could give his owl charge. Sorry. That was needlessly excitable.
Oh, he could. Mind control tech played the owl, and then it has charge. Assuming he hits the Tundra Rhino. Or we could just owl that cube
I think you might MC
Brawl
tech
that.
first, because if you actually steal that cube, it's not too bad, and then you just owl it after.
I think this is probably an owl brawl every time.
That's fine. I'm fine with
Choosing
that.
to take Spark Drill over Mechanical Whelp, even though the Whelp does charge in, or does rush in, excuse me, and then give you the 7/7 that can rush immediately after. Oh, that was almost the strongest owl we've ever seen.
Faeli has had a charging Rhino on the board since time began.
I think he built that on turn 6. I would like to have seen Don take Mechanical Whelp there. I think it's just better than Spark Drill.
Unfortunately, we're at the stage where it probably isn't going to hurt anything, but yeah. He seems to have given this game up quite early. He started making some decisions where he didn't seem comfortable.
Well, you know what? I don't think this was a game that he could have realistically won.
No.
Because Faeli had coin Rexar on 5. And that's what it came down to. This matchup looks incredibly one-sided when Rexar is there early and when you can stick a high-value beast such as this Tundra Rhino.
That's why Hunter versus Warrior is regarded as massively favoured by a lot of people who watch it a lot.
In its best situation for Hunter, it really is. But there are a lot of other situations that aren't the perfect one. Don's going to have to give this up.
It'll be 2-1 to Faeli. If he wins, he goes into the top 16. If he loses, he might go into the top 16.
So now Don going to try to beat this Hunter with Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin very favored against Death Rattle Hunter.
Yes.
Oftentimes can win the game by turn 6, turn 7. The Hunter just doesn't have Unleash the Hounds. Deathstalker Rexar can come down a little bit too late. Paladin has far too much reload for the Hunter to deal with normally. But then that puts Faeli on Even Warlock up against the Odd Paladin, and that tends to be quite good for the Even Warlock.
Yeah.
So the projected way this matchup is going to go looks like it's in favor of Faeli. And I think that's what he was planning from that Hunter queue into the Warrior. It looks like he's just got the matchups he needs.
It's one of the big differences with Last Hero to Conquest. In Last Hero, you do quite often build a lineup. The phrasing's a bit weird, and I don't quite like it, but the phrase goes, you design a lineup to win 3-2. So no matter what you go with first, you end up getting a counter queue to get to 2-all, even if you lose the first game, and then you win game 5.
You see very few 3-1 results.
You do. It's
in
really
Last Hero
strange.
Standing. It's primarily going to be a 3-2 or just a complete 3-0 sweep.
Yep. Yeah, you lose that counter queue in game 2, and you fall
You're
apart.
done.
You win it, and you alternate.
Yep.
Some results from around the floor. Ball Control, Hypno. He must be enjoying this Even Paladin Resurgence. He was like the first guy to really go for it. And Tyler, all 8-1.
Wow.
So
okay.
Tyler has lost once.
Very impressive. So
Insane.
Vietnam, England, and Switzerland, I believe.
A8, Pardub, Burrow, Dead Draw, Orange, Toast Monster. Well done to him. Yukazo, Andre Burt, Arakoi. I'm going to get this name wrong because it's in a language I don't speak very well, but Vlashak, 77, I'm so sorry. They're all on 7 and 2.
A lot of those players we've seen on stream this weekend. Very impressive. Yeah, I can't help you there, Lorinda.
Thanks.
There's less vowels in that name than I would assume. All right, so the
It's game
Hunter,
number 4.
the Hunter up against the Odd Paladin. The way that I've seen Hunter win this matchup recently is, of course, Candle Shot is incredibly important, but Spider Bomb actually has been a key piece of the puzzle. Get the Spider Bomb down, mitigate the board that way, and then you need the Deathstalker Rexar Mossy Horror for follow-up. But the Devil's Sword Egg is often just too slow. Devil's Sword can only clear up 1 minion at a time, and the Hunter really can't race in this matchup.
Yeah, Rexar is kind of okay, but it comes down after the level up in this current hand setting. There's the Mossy. But no Candle Shot is just such a huge deal. Grizzly or Spider Bomb? Grizzly can be okay.
Grizzly's good too. Is it a little bit too slow though? It can clean up a board of recruits that have been leveled up potentially.
It might be too slow in the hand he has at the moment. In a vacuum, it's probably a touch better than the Spider Bomb, but he may just need this Spider Bomb to even get to turn 5 in any sort of half-decent shape. He thinks he can get there with a Grizzly, though. Trusting his deck a little bit, as Faeli likes to do.
He does have the Mossy Horror and Deathstalker Rexar follow-ups, which I think gives him a little bit more confidence in his mid to late game. The Spider Bomb would have likely been coin Spider Bomb this turn and hope that Terror Scale Stalker can activate it, but Don could have very easily just killed off the Spider Bomb and then press that hero power button again, and Faeli's very quickly back in the same situation.
Candle Shot's a decent-sized deal. It's not a massive deal.
It would
now
be
he's got it on turn 2.
It would be a much bigger deal if it could kill off a recruit this turn.
Yes. And if it had it on turn 1. This Righteous Protector's doing a very good job protecting the recruits.
Oh, so righteously.
Indeed.
Keep hero powering. Prepare for that level up on turn 5. It's going to come down before Faeli can clear up this board fully.
This just looks... Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
So, how are you feeling about game number 5?
Feeling like Faeli's going to be a little bit favored. Yeah, the level up's coming down before the Mossy Horde or the Deathstalker Rexar. That's the issue.
And if you coin out the Grizzly, then you don't get them until turn 6.
Yeah.
Oh, well, make space for another recruit. See if Don cares.
If Mossy or Rexar could be coined this next turn to prevent the level up, I think Faeli would be looking good. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. So Don is going to have a sizable board of 3/3s, and Faeli then will have a Mossy Horde that can't clear the board, and a Rexar that needs a lot of help to clear the board.
Yeah, but he does have Stalker.
Hey, it's a 3-mana 3/3.
Cool.
Is it a 3-mana 3/4? No.
Which would be a lot better, because you'd die having killed 2 minions instead of 1.
You'd die feeling a little bit better about yourself. But we're not playing Nightmare Amalgam in this deck. Just ship it to face. Faeli will kill 2. And then Don will have Argent Squire and 4 3/3s with Taunt.
Can Faeli pick up a second Grizzly? Maybe that would help.
I mean, it would definitely help.
Because then he would be able to go coin Grizzly,
Rexar.
try and limp his way to Rexarville.
Maybe.
But didn't happen. Do I think that the opponent who has just done nothing but hit the hero power button every turn might have a level up in his hand? Yay or nay?
Yay. Can I afford to play around it is a different story.
How do I beat it with only 20 health expended?
Ugh. Maybe you could beat it with 40 health?
Maybe.
Nah, maybe not. Maybe not.
I mean, you could definitely beat
There's a
it
lot
if you
of
had
dudes.
infinite turns. Oh, you're losing fatigue.
But no. Nah.
Faeli's look is like, well, I think we'll see something that looks strange here, because he's going to conclude he can't beat level up, even though he well and truly knows he is up against it.
So just hope that there's no level up. Obviously, if there is level up, coin Grizzly is the better play. But Faeli needs to hope there is no level up, and then coin Mossy or coin Rexar could clear the board, and then he would be in a fairly good position. But no, level up is there right on time. Faeli going down to just 8 life. And that is gonna...
It's not quite.
Ziliax is actually really good.
The Leroy's making this easier for Don as well, but...
Faeli clears up 3 of the minions, goes back up to 11.
Yeah. Maybe.
Heals an additional 3 from Ziliax. Corridor Creeper's free. It's not over just yet. Suddenly the 5 armor from Deathstalker Rexar is looking...
huge.
Yeah.
The thing is here that the Corridor Creeper is going to be big, as in easy to play, as a big deal. The Leroy's already there. The Divine Favor gives him a chance to do it all again. And Faeli's done no damage at all. So even though he is going to survive the immediate threat, the second and third waves are still going to be pretty terrifying.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Paladin deck doesn't just end at level up. Don still will have so much pressure going forward. He does get the worst of them all options, but it's a weapon that allows him to get through Ziliax without having to use his board.
Wonder if you could trade here and then just play 0 mana Corridor Creeper and Fungal Mancer and just have a pretty tasty minion.
A 4/7 and a 3/3 with Divine Shield.
Yeah, I mean, this is evaluated it, but you don't get the Corridor Creeper down. Yes, you do, but it's not a very good one.
No, but you get to push the 5 to face, which is pretty juicy.
Yeah, it's
this sets up
massive.
for the Leroy to face lethal.
Yep, that's going to work. That's better than what I was talking about.
There's a lot of roads there that I think Don could have taken that would have ended up equally positive for him. Deathstalker Rexar going to come up a little bit short. The Grizzly not blocking enough damage here. Especially since we can see that Leroy in hand.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, Leroy or the Maul would just be enough to finish this up. So Don is going to tie this series up 2-2, but now Faeli has the Even Warlock to bring out against Paladin. I have seen Even Warlock pretty much bully Odd Paladin with only one exception.
Really?
And that exception being Gallon yesterday, playing his Odd Paladin against the Even Warlock from Casey, I believe it was, with King Mukla on turn 4, playing around Defile very, very well. You can't always do that, but Gallon somehow made it look easy.
Best way to play around Defile is they don't draw it. I mean, I'm not even joking in this matchup. This matchup is one-sided in favour of the Warlock. I will never deny it. And it's not just me doing my thing where I stick up for the underdogs. The Paladin can definitely win this matchup quite often. Game. It needs to do a combination of removal and a giant. And then you have this one turn where you play a giant. They have to ignore it because they're trying to kill you. Then you kill all their stuff and you kill them in 3 turns. But if you don't put the clock back on them,
they're just going to keep
make another load of stuff, yeah.
Hooked Reaver going to be another really impactful card in this matchup for Faeli, because Don will get Faeli down to a very low life total. Like you were saying, it's about that ability to stabilize and counter pressure, and Hooked Reaver is going to do both of those things very well. But with Righteous Protector and Blessing of Might very early on, Don's going to have a threat that is resilient to both Defile and Hellfire right off the bat, and it's going to push a lot of damage.
But starting next turn, Faeli has just got everything he could ever want, so as long as he doesn't walk into any nasty traps, he should be okay.
Was it Faeli that we saw using Demonic Project to hit a Shutterwalk yesterday?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
There's not many people play the project anymore, so it was probably Faeli. But this start is obviously fantastic for Don. Faeli doesn't have a great turn 3, he can play the Homunculus and just probably tap again. Bit of healing.
No Spellstone in hand to buff up just yet, but this is preventing 4 damage.
And this is where it gets so difficult for the Paladin.
You really want to hero power. But a lot of the time, it's just going to be incorrect. It sets you up for Defile to be a board clear.
I think on this occasion, as he's going to put the Righteous Protector into the Homunculus anyway, you might as well hero power. Then you consider, do I want to Argent Squire or don't I? You probably don't.
I mean, it's what you said, Lorinda. I hope it's not there.
Yeah, if
it's not there,
you win.
Massive payoff. If it is there, well, press the button again next turn, set up for level up. Or Fungal Mancer.
Interesting decision for Faeli here. The weapons are very relevant for the Paladin, but also having just a 3-2 on the board is very relevant for Faeli.
Especially since he will not have a Defile left, only a Hellfire. So if there were to be, say, another Argent Squire that has a Blessing of Might on it, he would need a minion to bump off that shield before he could Hellfire it away. Although he does have Silence available as well, so maybe the Acidic Swamp Ooze is just more valuable to clean up a weapon. There are probably 2 Vine Clavers in Don's deck.
So can he play a minion and not use either removal spell? That is a thing you have to look for. I think he's taken too much to do that in this game. Yeah, he's taken too much, he feels. If you're taking a bit less damage, you could just play Twilight Drake there and start the process of telling your opponent to do something.
Those are the situations that I find myself in, though, where you then get incredibly punished by Purifier's Maul. And then that's a board you can't come back from at that point. I think better to use the Defile when it might not be perfect, but necessary to avoid potentially losing situations. And I know it's a 1 in 4, and you don't always have them all at this point, but the first time that happens to you, it feels bad enough that you don't let it happen again. Tapping into the Hooked Reaver with 15 life.
Seems good.
Seems great.
It doesn't seem as bad as your opponent drawing Vine Cleave the turn after you play a Swamp Ooze to occupy the board. That's definitely true. Okay, so this is the situation you're looking for. You've got a removal spell in hand, you've got a big thing on the board. And your opponent has, I don't want to say no threats, but a little bit of a lame board.
It's going to be hard for Don to pull this one back, for sure, as long as Faeli keeps playing threats turn after turn, which we can see he has plenty of. Skulking Geist will hit Blessing of Might and double Lost in the Jungle at this point.
Don's working out whether he needs to Leroy this down, but it's really not going to achieve much. His plan here really is to Vine Cleaver followed by level up at some point.
And that's going to require a couple of turns of falling behind and then hoping that Vine Cleaver is enough to get him back ahead. I don't think it will be on its own. It might require Stonehill into a Tarim, honestly. It's a small chance, but
we've seen it done.
Yeah, it might be all that Don has left at this point.
And this is just the huge importance of the Warlock getting any minion at all on the board. Even though he can't kill the Vine Cleaver now, it probably won't be too relevant. I'm not going to say it's not going to be relevant because it's a big deal that you can't kill it. But you can fight back so tastily. That helps so much.
Yeah, it does. And the Ooze having been played now 2 turns before, able to clear off a Flame Elemental and a buffed Recruit.
Yeah. Now you get to use your 7/7, which you wanted to use as a beating stick. Now you can just use it as a clear and defend your Giant with it. The Giant just might run all the way to the finish line on its own.
I mean, Faeli feels really comfortable here, so much so that he's tapping himself down to 13. Which after 15, you don't really have to tap much anymore, but he wants as many resources as he can have available to him. Shrimp Brewer back up that Hooked Reaver, as Don already showed he doesn't have a way to deal with it. Another Sacred Maul. That is not what he needed.
Really isn't.
Although to be fair, I don't know that Purifiers would have been enough this time around. Blessed actually would have been decent. But even still, Don doesn't have 8 mana available to him to drop the Leroy and a Blessed Maul if that were there. Things looking really grim for Don here. He can coin out the Vine Cleaver, but if he wants to get the Recruits off of it, he's going to have to face tank 7. And still can't kill the Hooked Reaver.
Yeah, and face tanking 7 isn't as comfortable as a normal aggro deck on 30 fields, because they hit you back so hard so fast as the Warlock. It puts your clock down to like 2 turns. You just lose the straight race if you're not careful. Yeah, there it goes, tanking 7.
He's put everything he has into this Vine Cleaver paying off, and for that to happen he has to hit here.
And Faeli will get such a clear read from that play. There's nothing, it doesn't mean the play is wrong, it just means, you know, Faeli will just pick up on that.
Second Shroom Brewer can heal up the Hooked Reaver here. And can be played alongside the 3-mana Mountain Giant.
Yeah, and you just kill the 2/1/1s because you know what he's up to and make him take another 7. I mean, you might be able to even go face at that point, but I think you just kill him next turn. Do some swift.
So the difference is, does Faeli clock Don in 2?
Oh, he clocks him in 1 anyway. He's got 23 on board.
Yeah.
So he can afford to trade. But he doesn't want to because he's going to kill him anyway.
Yeah, put him to 16.
And you've got Hellfire because level up, who cares about Hellfire?
Spellbreaker plus Hellfire gets through Taunt. Bone Mare's additional burst. This is looking like Faeli figured out the route that this match was to go, figured out the correct Q order, and again, after getting that first win, very importantly with his Paladin deck,
Absolutely.
he was able to counter Q in the right order. Things look quite good, but, I mean, Don picked up that Vine Cleaver at the right time. He's got a nice big board now. Unfortunately, Hellfire is there, and that is going to be game. Don prepping that well played. Unfortunate for him that he's taken a loss here, but you know what? He fought well. I think he played quite cleanly, to be honest. There's nothing really that sticks out as having been